Picture this. Two women roaring across the country on motorcycles, defying every expectation and shaking up a world that told them you can't. Now, imagine nearly no one remembering their names. Feels like an oversight, doesn't it? This is the story of Augusta and Adeline van Buren, sisters who weren't content with sitting still while the world told them what they couldn't do. They risked arrest, exhaustion, and went through sheer survival mode just to prove a point that no one wanted to believe. Even setting aside their courageous and cheeky defiance of rigid gender roles, what they accomplished with almost no support was nothing short of groundbreaking. And yet, the historians of the time apparently decided that two women conquering 5,500 miles of brutal terrain on motorcycles was about as newsworthy as an unusually large turnip in the county fair. Maybe they were too busy debating mustache styling trends or superiority of the bowler hat. For whatever reason, the Van Buren sisters' feat was nearly lost, buried under the weight of outdated expectations. It's time to fix that. Let's give these women their rightful place in history. Let's set the stage to the reality of the time and how impossible this undertaking really was. In 1916, if you wanted to cross the United States by car, you were in for a challenge. Roads, few and far between. Maps, unreliable at best. Gas stations, good luck. And if your vehicle broke down, which it probably would, you'd have to hope a passing farmer knew a thing or two about engines. Outside of the cities in the east, roads were mostly dirt paths, poorly marked and barely maintained. West of the Mississippi, they often didn't have any roads at all, just trails worn down by wagon wheels or livestock, if you were lucky. So imagine making the journey on a motorcycle. Now imagine doing it as a woman in 1916, a time when ladies were expected to stay home, mind their manners, and certainly not travel alone wearing pants. Enter Augusta and Adeline van Buren, Gussie and Addie, aged 24 and 22. These two were no ordinary young women. They were part of the suffrage movement, advocating for women's rights. And they weren't content to sit on the sidelines. They were pilots, boxers, equestrians, and most importantly, motorcycle enthusiasts. With the U.S. on the verge of entering World War I, they had an idea. If women can prove that they are capable of riding motorcycles across the country, surely they could serve as military dispatch riders, freeing up men for combat. The catch? They were up against a society that saw women as fragile, incapable, and certainly unfit for a grueling cross-country journey on two wheels. In 1916, the very idea of a woman riding a motorcycle across town was unthinkable, let alone riding one from coast to coast. It was absurd, laughable, and, to most, outright impossible. Even for a man, such a feat was a rare and daunting challenge. For women, it was a fantasy. So they set out to do something no one thought possible. On July 4th, 1960, they left Sheep's Head Bay Racetrack in New York, each astride an Indian PowerPlus motorcycle, a 1,000cc machine capable of hitting a blistering 65 miles an hour. Their destination? San Francisco. The first stretch was manageable, but as they headed west, the real challenges began. Roads turned into dust, then into mud, and in some places, nothing at all. And when they reached Ohio, they ran into a different kind of roadblock, the law. Turns out wearing leather riding gear, including pants, wasn't just frowned upon, it was illegal for women. And without a male escort, they were promptly arrested. It wouldn't be their last time in jail. By early August, they'd reached Colorado and decided to take a detour straight up Pikes Peak. No woman had ever gone to the top on a motorized vehicle before. The unpaved, treacherous path pushed their bikes to the limit, but they made it to the top, setting the record in the process. From there, they pushed into the Rockies, where things got worse. Torrential rains turned trails into impassable mud pits. The sisters struggled for hours trying to free their bikes from the muck, until they had no choice but to abandon them and set off on foot, hoping for rescue. Could have been the end of the journey, perhaps even the end of their lives. But they emerged, cold, exhausted, and covered in mud, in the mining town of Gilman, Colorado, shocking the local men. The miners helped them retrieve their motorcycles, and they pressed on. In Utah, the relentless landscape threw another challenge at them, a sandstorm, and they lost their bearings and wandered out of water until a passing prospector found them. He shared his precious supply and then pointed them in the right direction. Finally, on September 2nd, 1916, 5,500 miles after setting out, they roared into San Francisco, becoming the second and third women to complete the transcontinental ride. And then, just because they could, they continued south to Tijuana in Mexico. Their feat should have been headline news. It should have changed minds. Instead, the military brushed them off, rejecting their bid to serve as dispatch riders. Their accomplishment was largely ignored. They wouldn't even get the right to vote for another 3 years. But Gussie and Addie weren't the kind of women to let setbacks stop them. Gussie became a professional pilot, and Addie became a lawyer, continuing to defy expectations for the rest of their lives. The Van Buren sisters were born into privilege, but instead of coasting through life, they chose to challenge themselves. They didn't do the easy thing. They did the impossible. They faced legal trouble, the raw brutality of nature, and societal expectations that told them they had no business being on a motorcycle. So here's the ounce. Every one of us gets to choose between the easy path and the one that pushes our boundaries. Life doesn't hand out participation trophies for playing it safe. So, exist or thrive. The choice is yours. And that's it. An ounce submitted for your consideration. Well, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this episode of An Ounce about Gussie and Addie. And if you did, would you please go ahead and give us a like, subscribe, and share, and hit that notification bell. We'd really appreciate it. And here's a couple of good videos for you to watch. Thanks.